Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to the studio. All right, let me double check and make sure that we are live in all the places. Yes. Woo! All right. Did everybody have a good weekend? It is good to see you. I am glad to be here. It is week 3 of September. And you know what I didn't do is get my slideshow going. So I have my virtual background here, but not my slideshow. Let's get that going. I see. I was so on the ball. I was like ready to rock and roll. I was just excited the Wi-Fi was working. Oh, that's last year's. Let's not do last year's. Let's do this year's September week 3, even though it's probably about the same. So, all right. Are you ready? I've got notes for you, everybody. It's like 2 pages long. As a reminder, this video goes out to our regularly enrolled students. If you're coming to us weekly for classes, this is where you get that information about what your kids are learning about in class behind those closed doors, where we are in our projects and progress and lessons. We've got a lot of examples to show you today, so you can kind of see what's going on. And yeah, so make sure you watch the intro. Make sure you watch the housekeeping. Sound good? So notes for intro. Reminder, you can use the timestamps in the video. So if you are catching the replay, I always try to go back in and put the time that we start talking about different classes. So that way you don't have to hear me talk about everybody's unless you want to. You can watch just your kiddo's class and then watch the housekeeping information. And then this is week 3 for everybody except for Monday classes. Remember Labor Day kind of messed up our month of September. It always does. And so Monday classes are a week behind, but it's okay because there's a Monday at the end of the month. There's 5 of them. So we'll get everybody in. It's not a problem. October starts on a Tuesday again. So we'll be doing this again in October. It'll be fun. Let's see. Lastly, when you first enrolled for your classes this fall, you had 2 choices. You could either pay by semester or you could pay by month. So if you're paying by semester, this is not for you. But if you're paying by month, like you're paying a monthly tuition, there's nothing that you need to do for October classes. You are auto-enrolled for October, and then for November, and then for December, and that's the end of our semester. So you're auto-enrolled. Your tuition comes out of your account automatically on the 1st. And so October 1st, we'll run your card for your October tuition. Now, if for any reason you're not going to continue on with us starting in October, so if you're like, oh, crap, I thought I was only doing 1 month, or we just wanted to do, this until soccer started, or we have a conflict, or maybe you're like, you know what, my kid's a kindergartner and it's just too much. Whatever it is, for any reason, if you are not planning on joining us for October, you have until Friday to let us know. All you got to do is send me a message. You can even reply to this email. You can send me a message on social media. But if you send me a message, I'll get that canceled for you. That gives us time to adjust the supplies that we're ordering for the month of October. And also, especially if your class is full, to pull somebody off that wait list and get them into class. All right. If you have questions about that, let me know. But we ask that you let us know by the 20th of the preceding month. If you're doing monthly, you let us know that you're not coming back. Okay. All right. Let's rock this out. You ready? Preschool fundamentals. I'm gonna clip there it goes. All right, so this is a cute little picture of one of our Plattwoods classes. Last week in Preschool Fundamentals, we read The Dot by Peter H. Reynolds. And please note, when I say last week, I mean Tuesday through Friday, right? Because Monday is a week behind. So Monday, people, if you're watching this, I know you have class this morning in like 3 minutes, but you guys are going to be reading The Dot this week, right? Because you're behind us. But all of the Tuesday through Friday families, you guys read The Dot last week. And then you have your last class this week for the month of September. Preschool fundamentals and toddler classes only meet 3 times a month. So we're always going to have at least 1 off day. This is our last week of classes for those Tuesday through Friday kids. We're going to be reading It Fell from the Sky by the Fan Brothers and making some marble art. We'll also take those black sheets of paper that we stamped with white circles. We'll take those and add to them this week. We're going to add some chalk pastel details and turn them into marbles. My multimedia classes, I love this picture. Look, where is it? There it is. This is actually Monday's class. This is a Monday class last week. So they were doing week 1, not week 2. But I love it. This is Miss Schuyler's class out in Flatwoods, and they are watching their slideshow of art inspiration. I don't really know what to call it. I always want to call it art history, but it's not art history. This is a slide of Reginald Laurent, and he is a contemporary artist. So I don't think he qualifies as art history, but we are looking at art. We're talking about it, whether it's the subject matter, it's the composition, it's the colors, it's the technique, whatever it is. We've got a slideshow of art that we look at in week 1. So and we're discussing it. So we're learning the vocab that we use to talk about art, and we're learning like all the concepts that make up art. So I really love this new part of our classes this year. So I wanted to show that to you in the slideshow. All right, so our K third classes are making these abstract, we're calling them organic shape parties. So they're abstract art. The reason we call them organic is because we're using organic shapes. We talked about last week the difference between a geometric shape and an organic shape. We looked at some art of Henri Matisse. And we started working on our big sheets of paper. First week, we just did technique. Our second week, we started the project. And so I wanted to show you kind of where we're at on this. And I brought an entire pile of K third classes. I'm going to be really careful with them because they're not sprayed yet. We'll spray them with a fixative when they're done. And until that point, the chalk pastel is like super easy to smear, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to do my very best to hold some of these up for you so you can see how different all of them are. Now I do have a green screen happening, so there are times that like this little spot right here is all green. You won't get to see that, but you can see how organic and fluid and flowing these shapes are. Our goals for week 1 were to get some of our shapes drawn and start filling some of them in with color. And that one even had some gradients going on. Some people focused really heavily on the contour, on the line, and then some of our artists they colored kind of as they went. I love this one. You can see all of these organic shapes. Oh, it goes this way. I can tell because the name's on the bottom. So this week, we'll work on solidifying some of these. So our chalk pastels can be very translucent. They can be very sheer. And so sometimes you need to go over and put basically like more than one coat of paint on them. You need to color them again. So we're going to be encouraging our artists to do that. It's really hard for our youngers, but it's just something we encourage to get a heavier coat, especially on some of these lighter colors. This is hard for me. Like this little orangey one right here, you know, getting a heavier coat of paint on some of those. And we'll also start putting some patterning inside our background, our negative space, which is the black part. Okay. Let me see if I can find one more here. This one here, they've man, they worked hard. I can tell. They've got like all of it covered, right? Aren't those fun? So coverage is kind of our focus for week 3. And then we'll add, remember we did that technique worksheet at the beginning of the month where we talked about blending and gradients and texture that goes on top. So in addition to getting like something more solid, we'll also work on adding those layers on top. So and using some of those techniques. So these are our K third projects. They've got 2 more weeks to work. So they've got this week and next week. This week, by the time they like finish class, our goal is that they're just about done. Because in our 4th week, we're going to work a lot on finishing. We're going to write our artist statements. We're going to get them sprayed with fixative. We want to get pictures taken, all that. So a lot of steps in week 4. So we want to get as far into the projects as we can. Also in our classes this week, so K third especially, this will be the first time that they do a critique. So we will spend the first part of class kind of like this right here, where we're looking at art and talking about art, except it will be our art that we're looking at and talking about. So we'll lay out everybody's artwork and we'll do a critique as a class. Now, there's a lot to learn in critique, right? We're working on our vocab. We're working on, you know, what is appropriate to say and what isn't. So there's a whole process of learning how to talk about art and then how to talk about art with that artist right next to me. So for a lot of our classes, they will practice this skill with another class's artwork. So this is Thursday's class that I pulled out of their cubby. Thursday, when they come to class, they might pull Tuesday's artwork. And they'll run a critique on Tuesdays. Because none of the Tuesday kids are in the room, and it's a learning process, and eventually we'll get to where we're critiquing our own. They'll have theirs in front of them, so hopefully what they hear about somebody else's art, they can reflect and learn about their own. But it's just nicer that way. As we learn maybe what might hurt somebody's feelings, and we should keep to ourselves. So, all right, 4th and 5th grade classes also have a critique that's going to be happening. They will start their class with a critique. They are doing these koi fish. I'm going to call them paintings because that's what pastels are called when they are completely covered with chalk. Like if it's not just a pencil, like a sketch with outlines and lots of negative space, when it's completely covered, it's called a painting. So they're doing these koi fish paintings. They had to come up with their own composition. So you're going to see, this is actually the one in the photograph. You're going to see lots of different compositions. So this artist chose to put her koi fish in a kind of a circular composition. Not a lot of negative space in there, a really good balance between the positive space in the fish and the negative space. You can see this artist went a different direction. And we've got kind of like a central koi fish, and then some unfinished parts. We just don't know what's going to happen there. I'm sure they have a plan. Here's a fish. This is a green leaf over here. That's why you're not catching that in the slideshow. But look how beautiful the detailing is on that beautiful fish. Some of them went with like an off-color koi fish, right? So I don't know if pink and white koi fish actually exist, but that's okay. We had photographs of koi fish for them to look at. Again, here's like a double. I don't know which direction they plan on having this, and I won't know until they put it in their mat. But so if an artist is watching this and I showed it upside down, I do apologize. I love this. This is a different composition. Like we've got like the head of one koi fish followed by the tail of another. So lots of decision making, and that's the end of that pile. Lots of decision making that has to happen in these classes. We like giving our artists the freedom to make that choice, right? We're not all drawing the exact same picture. We like to narrow it down with a subject just so it's not quite so intimidating to have a blank sheet of paper in front of you. But really there's still a lot of freedom in these classes and how to set up their own art. I'm sorry, is there anything else I need to tell the 4th and 5th? So they're kind of in the same boat as our K1s, where we've got to get things covered, right? We got the first layer on, we got the blocking in, but like, can I still see paper through it? If so, we need to add a second coat of paint, right? So we're going to work on getting a more saturated color, a richer color, more coverage. We'll work on adding those gradients, adding those textures, adding those highlights, and adding those shadows. So we really get some depth going on in there. And the goal is that after critique, they'll spend the entire class really just working and to get as far as possible on these paintings, so that in week 4, we can just do finishing touches. We can get them matted. We can get our artist statements written. We get them sprayed with fixative, that kind of stuff. All right, 8th, 12th, 6th, 7th, middle schools and high schools. Very similar to the koi fish. They have a subject matter that they're working with. And then after that, it's wide open. For most of these kids, this is not their first time doing chalk pastel art. They blew through that technique worksheet and they're like, we got this. Their subject is birds. And I love this picture of one of our artists working. Some of them work from a printed photograph. Some of them work from imagination, but a lot of them work from their phones. And so we do allow phones in those classes if they have a phone and want to have it. We do talk to them about appropriate phone usage. It can be used to put in earbuds and play music. It can be used to look up reference images, that kind of stuff. But we don't take that away from them. It's such a great resource for them. If you have artists in that class and you're like, my kid doesn't have a phone, or my kid doesn't bring a phone, or I don't like that option, that is okay. It is not a requirement. We have devices here. We have tablets and laptops. The instructors have their phones, and we will look up images for them, either on Canva or on Google, and we have printers and we print things all the time. So they are welcome to use our electronic devices to come up with their reference images. For a lot of them, working from a photograph is what they prefer as opposed to trying to work from their imagination. So, so I'm going to go ahead and show you some of their artwork. They have some pretty wild things going on here. Birds. Birds is a really wide open subject. So they have to pick your type of bird. They have to find, do some research and find their reference images. They have to decide, like what's their style? Is it impressionistic? Is it, I mean, they can go graphic and cartoon. This one, I bet it goes this way. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? They can go super realistic. They can go abstract expressionism. They can make it realistic, but alter the colors. So we have lots of great things going on. We even have some that are very surrealistic, right? And these are all very in progress work. This one, see if anybody gets this one. This is the bird. The bird scooter. So, these are some of our older ones. I think this is 8th, 12th. Actually, I know this is 8th, 12th in Liberty. That one's the beginnings of a flamingo. So we have people in different stages because some took longer to find their images or took longer to sketch it out. So we have lots of really amazing artists in these classes. So they're really in the same point as our younger classes where they've got it sketched, they've got it started, and it's just work time. So they're gonna they'll do a critique just like the others, and they're actually really good at critique because a lot of them have been with us since they were in kindergarten. So so they'll do their first critique and then really just dive right back into work. So they'll work really, really hard this week to get as much done as possible. Now, depending on where they finish, especially in these older classes, if they need more time, we will tell them like, hey, feel free to come in on a makeup night and take advantage of that extra studio time. They just have to let us know that they're coming. And I know I told my drawing classes, and I know Plattwoods, we had a meeting last night. I know Plattwoods has also told their older students, like, if makeup times don't work for you for like additional studio time, then reach out to Sarah or reach out to me and we will get you alternative times that you can come in during like a class and still have that time to work. So just reach out. All right. Creative explorations. Now, similar to our preschool classes, right? They have a similar calendar. Creative explorations meet 3 times a month. They don't meet 4 times. And so you're always going to have an off day. There are some months you might have 2 off days, right? If there's 5 of a particular day in a month, you're going to have 2 off days. In the month of September, this is our last week of classes. So we will have a week off next week. So both the Wednesday class in Plattwoods and the Friday class in Liberty meet this week. And this is the last time you will see these Yakisama stations out for the dot art, the fall, like foliage, still life, the water beads. That's what this picture is from Creative Explorations has been out. What other things? I gotta look at my notes. The chalk pastels have been out, the painting and printing of circles, just kind of that thematic exploration that we've set up. That will change the next time you come. So this is the last week to do those things. And the teachers will make sure these kids know this. I did peek into some of the cubbies. We have a few kids that have a project that they're working on through the month. It's not something we require. It's not like the art I just showed you that it's that we're going to spend the whole month on one project. For creative explorations, they can choose, right? Like, I can make something different every day. I can explore something different. I can make 6 things every day. I can make nothing when I come and I can just play and explore and have fun, right? But we do have some kids back there who might be working on something and they've kept it in the class cubby. So the instructors will make sure they know that like, this is the last week we're gonna have the chalk pastels out. So, you know, make sure you finish this or come in for a makeup session so that way we can get it knocked out with you. So, so just so you know, that's what's coming. Next month, they will explore clay and line art and a lot of like loosely Halloween-y themes. And so, yeah, like not like ghosts and goblins, but bats and spiders. So we've got that going on for our stations in creative exploration next month. All right, drawing classes. So I got to grab my other pile of stuff over here. We're going to talk about these guys. So drawing 101 for our Tuesday through Friday people, right? Because if you're in a Monday class, you got to watch last week's video if you want to find out like what's going on in class this week, right? So last week we did continuous line drawings to warm up. And so we did them on Post-its. Now, if you don't know what a continuous line drawing is, it basically means you're going to look at an object and you're going to draw this object without picking up your pencil. And generally you're just drawing the contour, like you're not putting in values and stuff. So you're going to take your pencil, you're going to draw around it, and then you're going to go down, you know, so you like, it's like you trace the whole thing, but you don't pick up your pencil. And it's designed to connect your eyeball with your hands, right? So that means like, if I need to draw the design in the middle of my mug, then maybe I come from the top, the line continues down, and then I draw it. It's designed to get like that line that isn't really there, right, in this space here, to measure. Hopefully that makes sense. So we did some continuous line drawings to warm up. They loved it. We did them on Post-its so that way you could move around and just take your little pad of Post-its with it. And so we put them in our journals. You can see we've got our continuous line drawings. We drew like scissors and we drew a jar. This right here was a block from the lobby, and we've got like M blocks, letter blocks. This right here was a little like silicone brush. This was a spray bottle. This was a pencil sharpener, a handheld pencil sharpener. So we had lots of great little items up on the table, and that's how we warmed up. For our project or our lesson, we had two main things that we wanted to do. We were drawing in graphite, so we're using pencil. Remember last week we used all sorts of media, right? We kind of had a smorgasbord and did our self-portraits. This time we did just graphite, and we learned about the different pencils. So this was one of my artists playing with different pencils. We saw the difference between like a 2H pencil and a 6B pencil, talked about what it felt like, what it sounded like, how it looked on the paper, and the difference between the two, so that we could understand the difference between the different drawing pencils. And so this is one of our artists kind of testing that out. This is another one of my 101s kind of testing it out. I asked him what their favorite was, because not everybody shares my opinion that 6Bs are the best pencils ever, and that's okay. I'm a big fan of 6Bs. Some of them like the 2Hs. That's okay. And then we drew eyeballs. So we had photographs. It's the first time we've worked from a photographic reference. We had photographs of eyes, talked about the different kinds of eyes, talked about the different parts of an eye. We gave them the words that describe it, right? And we talked about the values that we saw. So whether it was light or dark, what we saw lines or if we saw shadows, and we practiced rendering those on a piece of paper. So you can see some of this. Some of these guys did different eyes. And they're just kind of all over their papers. So we have lots of different ones. And then, of course, on the back of this, for my parents who look in the book, there's our little lesson page that talks about what we were learning. And that way you can ask questions if you'd like to. There's another great eyeball drawing, I think. Yeah, he's got a couple. Some of them drew one on per page, like really, really big, and some of them drew them kind of small. Our photographic references were really small, but that's okay. And then there's the page there. So that was 101's last week's lesson. This week we're going back to portraiture. We're going back to people. But rather than drawing with pencil, we're going to draw with ink. And we're going to be using Sumi ink, which is it's like India ink. It's a liquid, like super dark ink. We'll give them a couple different tools. We're going to work on our mark making. So we've got straw nibs, and we also have glass pens that we'll use. So like totally different. Most of the kids will not have used this before. It is not washable. Please wear old clothes to class. So we're going to play with Sumi ink, and we won't draw from a reference. We'll draw from our imagination. Should be fun. All right, 102 classes. So we have two different types of 102. We got realistic and illustrative. Realistic broke out pastels, and we had a lesson in how to use pastels. We did that worksheet actually that the multimedia classes have been doing. And then we worked on landscapes. And so they worked from photographic reference, and they worked on vocabulary like foreground and midground and background. And then we drew from photographic reference. I've got all these ready to go. Isn't that fun? And anytime you work in color, you have to, you still have to get the contour right. You still have to get the value right. Now we got to get the hue right. So we had some challenges, especially because in chalk pastel, if the color in the pastel is not correct, like if you're like, oh, it's close, but it's just a little bit too whatever. But if I could just mix a little red with it, it would be fine. You don't get to do that on a palette, right? You have to mix it on the paper in the drawing. So that gets a little bit tricky here, but we did okay. Some of our 102 artists expressed like, oh man, like I didn't get to finish it. Especially this landscape, like it's a lesson. But so what we tell them is, number one, they're always welcome to use that extra studio time and come in like on a Wednesday in Liberty or on a Friday in Flatwoods and work more in their journals or more on a lesson that they'd like to. Whether you missed a class or not, you're always welcome for more studio time. Or I also told them we have built into the schedule what we call wild card weeks, where they can go back and continue to work on their drawings. That's when there's like no specific lesson planned, and then they'll have time to do that. We don't have one this month because it's the first month of the year and we wanted to get our benchmarks in, but in October we do. Okay, 102 illustrative. Make sure I've got the right ones, right? They work in folders, so I've got these right here to show you. They're doing technique lessons. So our first lesson was in line weight, and our second lesson is in alcohol markers. And I'm really excited for this one because we've never had a whole lesson in alcohol markers. We've always just said, oh, it's a lesson in coloring, and we do all the coloring options. This one we were like, let's just do markers. And so they practiced blending, they practiced layering and adding texture. Here's a really great example. Oh, this one's green. Of course it is. They practiced coloring one direction and making like a flat, almost like a watercolor wash. So obviously coloring is not hard, but coloring well is. And so we were really trying to practice those skills. I would say that alcohol ink markers are generally their favorite thing to color with. In past years, we'll see about this batch of kids, but for the most part, these classes, the illustrative 102 classes, love their alcohol ink markers. So it was really nice to get to give them a lesson in how to use them really, really well. This week, they're going to do color again, but we're going to use a different medium. We're going to be using colored pencils, which is more probably familiar than alcohol markers, but I promise there's just as much content that we can practice. Again, not hard to color with colored pencils, but it is something that you can do really well or mediocre. And our goal is that you do it really well. So we'll be showing the sets that we have. We use a Prismacolor colored pencils, and we'll be showing how to layer those, how to blend them. We have colorless blenders, but you can also blend them by layering colors together. So anyways, so we'll practice those skills with them this week. So that way they can decide going forward when they go to color their artwork, which one they prefer. Okay. And our 103 classes, I'm going to show a little bit of progress. I don't have much for illustrative because all of our illustrative classes are Monday classes, I believe. 103 illustrative. Well, no, I'm sorry. Flatwoods has a 103 illustrative, but it's Thursdays, and I'm in Liberty, so I don't have any of their artwork to show. Liberty's 103 class is a Monday class, so technically they're just now entering week 2 tonight. But I did want to show some of the stuff that they've got going on. So they're doing an interior room, and so they had a perspective lesson this last week. This is our kind of our go-to perspective handout. So if anybody's not familiar with, this is, here, how's this go? This is 2-point perspective rules using a vanishing point and horizon. And this is 1-point perspective rules using vanishing points and horizons. So that was their review. And then in week 1, they spent a lot of time sketching. So you can see like they've got smaller sketchbooks because they don't really work in here. They just kind of practice and lay things out and, you know, jot down ideas and get going in it. So I'll have to have Miss Cece send me pictures of some of their kids' artwork at Flatwood so I can show you. Their in-progress work as well. But this is, like I said, a week behind. Most of our 102 people in Flatwoods have at least gotten out their, like, they're not working in their books right now. They've gotten out their final sheet of paper and they've got it sketched out in that. The goal from this point on is that this week they get that inking done and start on the coloring. And then if they're not coloring, they'll continue to ink. They'll add all of their details in the stippling, the scrumbling, or the cross hatching. Okay. Their lesson this week for 103s, let me get it right, because they always have a mini lesson, not like a really long lesson, but their lesson for 103 illustrative is going to be in line weight. So that's what like our 102s did in week 1. So most of our 103s have had this before, but we're going to talk about line weight since they're into that inking thing. And they also just did the value scale, so they should be good to go. Okay. So I should have more to show you of their artwork next week. Here we go. I want to show you my 103 realistics. They are done with week 2. So they've got most of their sketches. They're doing celebrity portraits. So their goal was to get their contour done. So like their benchmarks and their lines done. Of course, that's portrait. Yeah, right. And they are working from photograph. So we printed those for them. I got to keep it in order because they've got a system here. They put all their stuff in there. And I do want to show you this because for a lot of us, it's a work in progress. And just because you started on it doesn't mean you're going to finish it. So we've got artists who are working from photograph, you know, and then maybe they started here and this was their first attempt, right? We got a few different attempts to kind of get going. And then we tried another method. We tried the reductive method of drawing. I'm going to get in here and show you one of my artists draws more reductive. And so this artist here that I just showed you went and sat next to her and then they were playing with those techniques. So he's not as far along as some of the others because he's still trying to figure out like, okay, still trying to get started, trying to get off the ground, and that's okay. For a lot of our artists, let me find this one. Where did it go? Here's another one of our artist who kind of started. She was doing this one, and it was really tricky because we've got a 3/4 turn, we've got head tilted down, we've got some funny angles. We started one and then restarted, right? Because it just didn't look right. Sometimes you just got to try again. Like that was a practice. So we've got sometimes a little bit further along. Yeah, got some good stuff going on. We're learning some techniques as we go. We're going to focus heavily on them this week. Where we like put them on the wall and we step back, or we flip it upside down so we trick our eyeballs. We'll also do a little bit of grid drawing so that way there's not a lot of margin for error in portraiture. This is my more reductive drawing girl. She's got belly parting. You can see like she draws with values instead of lines. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way of drawing. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put all of these back, but we have a wide range of progress in the 103 classes because some people are fast starters out of the gate. They know what they want to do and they just take it and run with it. Some people take a little bit longer to get going, or they hit a sticking point and start over, and that's okay. That is a-okay. I did want to remind anybody in 103s, if you're working on your project and you need more time, reach out to us. You can sign up for a makeup session or come before class and work before class. You can come during another class. We just have to set that up. Okay. All right. I'm going long. I got to get going. All right. Housekeeping, just a reminder, because I mentioned it in the intro, but just in case you didn't get it, you are auto enrolled in the next month's class. So if you're signed up for monthly tuition payments, you signed up for September, you're auto enrolled for October. There's nothing you need to do. But if for some reason you don't want to come and join us in October, we just need to know by Friday. Okay, that's the 20th of the month. That's just what we ask. If you're like, I don't even remember what I signed up for, Allison, that's okay too. You should have a confirmation email in your inbox, but if you can't find it, send me a message and I will look it up for you. Okay. And then I wanted to mention this. We have a special event coming up October 5th in Liberty. It's the very first plein air Liberty. And so plein air is a traditional concept of painting outside. It's French. It means in the open air. And so there are plein air competitions, you guys, all over the country and world, and you can do competitions. And basically there are different rules, but you have to paint in the moment and you have to paint at that spot. So we have our first one coming up here in Liberty. So if you have local artists, you can totally like sign up and join the competition. I will be participating. My daughter is 16. She will be participating. And then Orange Easel is putting on a kids version of this. So during the Plein Air Liberty workshop and competition that's happening downtown, we are putting on a shortened version. Like theirs is from like 8 to 5. Ours is like, I don't remember, 10 to 1 or something, like shortened. And we're gonna do it like, we're not painting, we're gonna draw. But you can come and make art outside with us. And there's a rain out date that's Sunday and all sorts of things. So check that out on the special events page of the website. I will be running that for the kids. It is not a drop off. So that's the only thing, because we're offsite and we're outside. It is not a drop off. Parents have to kind of be with us so that I can focus on the art and the teaching rather than counting kids all the time. So, so I would love to have you join us. Parents do not have to pay. And if you would like to participate, like if you'd like to draw along with your kid, we will provide supplies for you. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and sign up. And then the last thing that's coming up are the Halloween classes, and enrollment opens tomorrow at 9 a.m. So right now, if you go to the website under special events, you'll see the button. But if you click it, nothing happens. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Honestly, probably at 8:55. If you click it, it will go live. Okay. And you'll be able to sign up for those Halloween classes. Sound good? All right, you guys, I think that's all I have for you. This was a long video. So I hope you had a really great week. I'll see a lot of you guys in the studio. If you need anything, let me know.